Okay, fuckers and fuckettes, what we're going to talk about today is the little things that you do for your customers that you don't tell them you did, you don't charge them for it, you just do it. And there's a couple reasons why you just do them. Number one, it gives them a better riding experience, and when they leave you, they're going to be a lot happier with you. Now, I sold this bike back to this guy back in November, and it's a pretty fun little toy. I mean, it was done right. It was done as a period special. It wasn't done as, you know, a museum piece. It was designed to be ridden and be fun and be like we really rode them. But regardless of what bike it was, you know, and this is the same guy that you know, yesterday, when that kid bought that 450, this is the guy that ran me up to Sarasota and sat there the whole time. I'm in the Burger King parking lot fixing that kid's bike. I had the carbs off, figured out that, you know, there must have been enough varnish in the one float to where it didn't leak the whole time it was here or while I was riding it. But it leaked and overflowed, and this guy brought the kid, the bike, and me back here so I could solder up the floats and get the kids back on the road. And I'm going to give the kid a whole nother set of carbs just as spares, because even though I know that my solder job on that float won't go bad, I would rather, you know, say, hey, here's a spare set of carbs. At the same time, you know, this guy did not have to do that. But even if he hadn't have done that, no matter who it is, when they bring a bike into you, this one, you know, the original agreement when I sold him the bike was I had a starter in it, and I told him, you know, because he's got bad knees and he can't kickstart it, I told him if the original starter went that I'd put in the other one for free, and I had given him the other one with it. You know, I always give people whatever spares I've got for these bikes. Well, when they're this old. You know, because I suspected that other starter was potentially going to go, it was 50-50 whether or not it would last. So I gave him another starter with it and told him I'd put it on for free, which I did. Because the other starter did go bad. In fact, it's over here somewhere. It's locked up solid. But anyway, back on the things that you do. Okay, you set their brakes. You make sure that they're properly adjusted. That gives the customer a better riding experience, because when he leaves, the brakes feel better. They feel nice. And at the same time, that's beneficial to you, because if his pads are wore out, you can say, hey man, I noticed your brakes are almost on the check. But you don't do that, you know, you just adjust them properly every time, and you grease their swing arm. You let them know if they've got a bad cup seal. If they don't have a bad cup seal, you never say anything about it. You grease their clutch adjuster. If the clutch adjuster is fine, hey, you know, you roll their chain around, you squirt it with chain lube. And the reason you do that is if they've got a bad chain or a bad link, you can hear or you can feel while you're rolling it. It depends on how good you are. And let them know, hey man, you need to change that chain. You set their points. The reason you set their points is because that makes it start easier for them. It makes the bike feel better when they're running down the road. And at the same time, if they've got one point that's a little bit pitted or something, you can say, hey, man, I noticed you got one point that's a little bit pitted. And usually at that point they look at you surprised. Man, you went into it that far? Well, yeah, I always do that for folks. Of course, if they're a fucking Yankee, they're going to think that you did that. Oh, man, you know. But that's not your real object. Your real object is to make their riding experience as good as possible. You set up their back brakes. You make sure that they've got good pad back there. You don't put in new pad, you know, But you set them up, and if there's a problem, if they're running out of pad, then you let them know. Little things like light bulbs. If they've got a burned out bulb, replace it. If it's a wire going to that bulb, tell them, hey man, I noticed your wire there, but check first. Before you ever say anything to them about it, check first and see if, pull the headlight bucket and check first. Make sure that it's not just a wire loose or something. Something that's a 2-second fix, and you just fix it, and they go down the road. Man, that fucker fixed that shit. He didn't even tell me he fixed that shit. But if they've got them both, disconnected, well, then you ask them, hey man, you want me to hook that shit back up? I won't even charge you for it. Little shit like bulbs. If it's a headlight bulb, hey, tell them, hey man, your high beam's burned out, your low beam's burned out. But if it's just these little bulbs, they're what, 80 cents? Replace them. Don't say a fucking word about it. Make sure that shit works. Check their brake lights, if they've got a bad brake light switch, or if they've got a bad brake light bulb, tail light bulb, you just replace the bulb. If it's a bad brake light switch on front or rear, you tell them, hey, this is your problem, but you check first and see, oh fuck, there's a loose wire. If there's no loose wire, you tell them, hey man, you need a new switch on that, those are about $10. In the meantime, you've made a half-hour shop labor if they actually if they actually give you the job. If they change it themselves, then, you didn't make that much, but 9 times out of 10, if they're in the shop, they're not turning their own wrenches. Check their tires. You make sure that their tires have the proper air in them. The reason that you check their tires and make sure that they have the proper air in them is because you want that bike to feel as good as possible. And that's just what you do. You check their forks. Well, alright, holler at y'all fuckers and fuckheads later. Okay, you check their forks, and fork oil is a little bit expensive, and if it's some Yankee you just don't fucking like, don't bother, make them, But, me personally, I'll do it anyway. I'll drain your forks, put in fresh fork oil, because I'm out, that much out of a jug, and it's only $15 for a jug of fork oil. Okay, sometimes I'm out maybe that much. But you put fresh fork oil in their forks because that makes it handle better. When they leave, you want their riding experience to be as good as possible. And this is all little shit that you do, but you don't ever, if you've got one carb where the mixture's a little bit off and it's just that little screw to set it, go on ahead and set it. Don't ever tell them you did it. This is all shit that you do, but you don't ever tell them that you did it, because it makes their riding experience better. And the only time that you tell them, hey man, I noticed that you got a problem with your brake there, you're almost out of pad. You tell them, it gives you a chance to inspect the bike. It makes their riding experience a million times better, so they're always happy with you. And at the same time, if there is a problem and it is something that you can fix for them later or right then, you say, then you let them know, hey man, I noticed that. Okay, I'm rambling, but you get the idea. You do all these little things, you're out, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes shop time at the most. You've made their experience better. You've potentially brought yourself more business, which is not really the point. The point is they're going to be out there praising your work because the whole bike felt better. And even if they just come in for an oil change, you do all this shit anyway. If they've got a point that's pitted and it's not bad, and you want to take your points file to it, great, do that. I've been known to do that more than once. But if it's really pitted bad and it's not a matter of just take a points file to it, you tell them, hey man, I noticed you got a bad point there. And you set up their points, you know, you go in there, you set up their points. This one is still perfect, other than one little bolt. Which I have but could not find. Anyway, I know most of you younger kids running shops are probably like, well, that's too much fucking work, and you know what, that's why folks ain't coming back to you. Because when they leave and something else breaks that you didn't check, they're going to blame you. That's just how these Yankee motherfuckers are. Southern folk will know, well, hell, that was something else. But you get the idea. Holler at y'all fuckers and fuckettes later.